Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar, Competitive Intelligence in Small Organizations. My name is Rini Mikhaeli. I'm the director of the Institute for Competitive Intelligence, and it's my pleasure to host this very session. Today, we have a guest speaker from Belgium. This is Pierre-yves Debliquy. Pierre, you're on this call?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, everybody.
So thank you very much. As always, give a quick sound check so we know everything, at least on the technical side, is in line. As you realize by now, it's not us sitting together, which of course we all prefer, but no, we have sitting for you in Belgium, and myself, I'm in Germany. So we have a shared session on this one. I'd like to open the session with a few words about our institute and, of course, the session of today, and then I will hand over very quickly to Pierre-yves, and he can go through his slides, which you will see on screen, about this very topic of the day, competitive intelligence in small organizations. During his presentations, please feel free to post some questions. This is where you see the chat function on your GoToMeeting screen. So simply type in your questions. And then after Pierre-yves will have finished, we'll read out these questions. And then, of course, Pierre-yves will try to answer and hopefully enter in a kind of discussion with you. Obviously, we would love to have you talking with your microphones unmuted, but this is not possible given that we have so many attendees in this very session. So please keep your microphones muted and simply post your questions whenever they come up. Yeah, the Institute for Competitive Intelligence hosts sessions like this one today. We have an archive on our website called the Insights section, where you can find recorded session from the past. And of course, this one, i.e. today's session, will be recorded as well and will be made available to somebody later on. Our institute is all about training, certification, education in the field of competitive/market intelligence. So we're always into this notion of updating our curriculum, of finding new, hot, sexy topic, or simply having practitioners talk about their perspective on views, their specific case studies. And then, of course, we're always sort of keen and curious enough to inhale what we hear and then process it further for our own training classes or conferences that we provide as well. Yeah, but let's switch on to our session of today, Competitive Intelligence in Small Organizations. A few words about the background of our speaker, Pierre-yves. He's an ingénieur commercial from a business school by profession. He's been educated and graduated in information management as well as lobbying. So very diverse background. And for the last 15 years, actually, he's been involved in what we call the competitive intelligence field. During this time, he's been instrumental in setting up, helping other companies to excel in this field by providing services. So he was an entrepreneur, had his own company. He'd been involved with the Belgian area where he's living in Liège, helping SMEs, small, medium enterprises to grow, develop, and of course, let's see what we will be talking about in a moment. That's of course where he'd been exposed to many small enterprises and their specific needs and requirements to set up CI, competitive intelligence, as a system. Pierre-yves, I think this is pretty much it from my side. We're all keen to learn about the topic because, yeah, it's always great to hear about the big companies with their, wow, big budgets where you can virtually buy anything and everything when it comes to infrastructure, processes, manpower, of course, so people. But agreed, a small company with all these constraints and limitations has a completely different perspective on setting up and operating competitive intelligence in such an environment, but nevertheless, there's a need for it. And I think this is pretty much where your presentation jumps in, and we're all keen to learn your perspective on this very topic, how can and what's so specific about the small organizations and competitive intelligence in that? So please, all yours.
Okay, thank you, Ren. First of all, I want to thank you and Bill having invited me to be in this webinar and to present some parts of my work. So you just told us I'm working in Liège in a company that aims to develop the economic activities on the territory of the province de Liège. Main customers are very small companies, and I'm in charge of helping them implementing competitive intelligence practices. So from my previous life, when I was trying to sell competitive intelligence services to whatever companies, I had lots of troubles and difficulties to convince these companies for buying this kind of services. And I always wonder why it was so difficult, because I'm convinced it should help them. No, I had the same trouble at the beginning of my experience in Liège. And then with some colleagues, I tried to understand better the way these small companies are working. And actually, I reached the point I will discuss with you, being convinced that we have to adapt the way we are looking to competitive intelligence for them. So actually, I am promoting a concept of frugal competitive intelligence, which means that we try to get most of what we could do with them with limited means. Now, this is the objective of my speech of today. I will tell you a small story, bringing you to the point and to some example of what we can do with very limited activities. In fact, I noticed somehow one day that I was working with tacit information and knowledge, and not only with explicit information that I could have found on the internet or in whatever place. So this summer, I was working in the factory you see on the screen. Actually, I will not disclose the name of this company, but this is one of the biggest company on my territory. They are active in the field of phosphate, and they have two teams, two group of people, in total 4 people, active in what we could call or name competitive intelligence. One of them is the market intelligence team, and the other the competitive intelligence team. And some weeks ago, they have to join. So they have actually only one team of 4 people doing stuff around competitive intelligence. They are quite successful, or they claim to be quite successful. I'm pretty sure they are doing a very good job. They are really skilled people, but nevertheless, they have been challenged by the manager of them. They had to show or to demonstrate their real added value, meaning that somewhere people were wondering what they were adding or bringing as value to the company. And actually, they called me to help them redraw the business model and preparing the meetings they will have to attend in order to prove or to show the real added value they had. Well, from what I heard from them, obviously they had lots of work to do, so there are lots of demands. People, colleagues claimed they were successful, so they were claiming to be pleased with the results, and the quality was also on a high level. But still, they had to wonder and to imagine a new business model or a new way to present their business model. The job I made with them is to use the value proposition canvas. Actually, they have 3 kind of customers. one being the C-suites, the second the commercial teams, and then the research and development. But never they try to put their feet in the other shoes. So they were producing stuff, lots of stuff, never wondering if they were meeting the expectation of the customers. Actually, they told me this was the first time they took the customer or their customer perspective. And for them, this was a very strange and rich journey they met with me. So they noticed that it was a very big misfit between what they delivered and the quality they were delivering and what people was expecting to get, the expected quality. And this misfit could be seen on the level of the access to documents. So they do not have a very powerful system or platform to give access to documents to people whenever they want to. So when people wanted to have a document that was produced by the team, but they couldn't reach the document. A second trouble is that the access to the information, which is normally in documents, was also difficult. One reason of this lies in the formats of the multiple formats of the document they were producing. Some were mind maps, some were regular Word documents, could be also PowerPoint presentation, even Excel sheets. And when people want to get to information, they had to read and to go through the entire documents and sometimes multiple documents before they get and they reach the information they were looking for. So access to information, even if the information was of a good quality, was very low and not that effective. And then there was also a problem related to delivered information. Actually, they produce lots of documents just because they believe the information they are producing would be useful sometimes for somebody, meaning that when they deliver it, nobody was interested in it. And when people were interested in information, well, there was nothing to be delivered or something very specific on demand. And also they did not know how they were influencing the decision-making processes. So they had also a trouble internally in the team, not knowing what was the use of their work, and also being somehow sad that nearly nobody were reading the high-level quality of document they were producing. Well, in that context, as in many different contexts in companies, they had to deal with operational questions, tactical questions, and strategical questions. Now, right now, I will only focus on strategical topic. What I recommended them, or they also decided to recommend, is first of all the use of a new platform and the implementation of a new platform, but this is not really critical. They first of all have to increase the quality of the relationship they have with their colleagues and their customers. So they have to implement a new dynamic, meaning that they have to redraw and reinvent the way they will be exchanging with their colleagues and the way they will get the assignments and the new questions, and then the way they will deliver the results. And also they have in this idea to redraw and to remake a new protocol. How will they be working in the future? This is the place where frugal competitive intelligence is coming. But before that, you will probably have a recognized situation that you know and you've already met. Actually, this is a very common situation I met in various enterprises I met already. So frugal competitive intelligence is getting the most of the limited means we have to spend. And this is key for small and very small companies. We cannot ask them to put 500 or 5,000 euros on the table. We need to go to them with very light activities and certainly with new specific tools, technological tools or whatever. So first of all, we have to gain their confidence and we have to work with them in order to get some good results. The fact is that I somehow have studied the way they are making decisions, and I noticed that decisions are based on intuitions. So my point of view and my stance is actually to put information at the service of the strategy of my customers, whatever information, meaning that if I want to put something at the service of the strategy, I first of all need to know and to understand the strategy, or they need to know and understand their strategy. And this is not already obvious for lots of them. And then we have to interrogate the strategy and to identify in the strategy the zone or the point that we need to, for which we need to get more information. And then we have to go and to collect this information. But another way to express my job is that I have to feed the intuition. So competitive intelligence is there to get them, to lead them to some information that they will be using at the time they will make some decisions. A second point is that we have to reduce uncertainty. So we have to make them more comfortable with the decision and to let them understand that if they had some information, they will take better decision, not necessarily the one we're working on, but in globally, they will make better decisions and this will be profitable for the company. And then, and this is quite important, we have to focus on useful information. Most of the watching system I saw in companies, and even those I wanted to try to sell in the past, were not focusing on useful information, but on interesting information, meaning that the information we collect has no direct use. So I try to have my customer telling me what information they need for what decision and for what benefit. And if you have this information before you start, for sure you will get more information in a shorter time, and then you will not be challenged about the cost and the ROI of your mission. So the new protocol I try to have them in place is first to have a demand validation. And this means that they have to get information from the customer about the decision to be made, the priority or the importance of the decision and of the topic they are working on. And then also some information they already know, being the starting point for collecting information. And from this point, the BI, the CI team has to say go, no go, before they do not have time to accept all the demand they get. The second point is that they have limited resources, so they need to limit the effort and the consumption of resources for the different assignments, meaning that they should have to have a basic prestation, basic assignment, let's say half a day, and after half a day, they have to go back to the customer to give them feedback, and then to decide if they will take another session of half a day or not. This to reduce the numbers of missions that they are spending days on it, just not knowing when they have to stop. And this is one very important topic or pain they have. Said they spend too much time on lots of their assignment. Now they also have to use new tools, and this is the point I wanted to highlight with you. First of the tools I'm using is the mind mapping. And mind maps are very important for me because they bring lots of advantages to every CI practitioner, meaning that it's helped us to collect and to have all pieces of information in one place. We can then organize all this information in such a way that it's begin to bring more information and to highlight some specific points. And then it's really easy to share with other people, even or with customer. And then customer have an ability to point out all the information they need to have without the need of reading all documents we could have found somewhere on the web. Now, this is also a point that I want to highlight is I am working with information and not document, meaning that every time I find a document, I'm extracting the useful information from the document and I'm taking this information for further analysis. It means also that when I'm talking to people and trying to get information from them, I am also using and working with this kind of information that I possibly put in my mind maps. But mind mapping is not enough. We need to manipulate the information and to stage the information in order to let the information tell us the story we want to read, in order to bring the answer to the questions we rose. So I'm using some canvases, and you probably know the first of them, which is the business model canvas from Alexander Osterwalder. And this is really, really important tools. Now, the choice of the canvas is depending on the questions we want to answer. But in most of the case, in competitive intelligence, we want to understand the strategy of a competitor. And then the business model canvas is a perfect tool to understand this strategy. And for understanding the strategy of a company, you do not need to go on the internet and to find a lot of information. You can start from a very short amount of information, and I will show you with a very short example. And this is the key point of my practices. And when I want to highlight the strategy of a company, I just have a chat with my customer or the team of my customer, and I let them talk, and I let them remember of tacit information and tacit knowledge they have. And this is all the information I will be using for drawing and telling them the strategy of the competitor. So I'm using most of the time tacit information and not explicit information. Explicit information being the information you find in documents. And then I give my conclusion. Now, as an example, I've done it with lots of entrepreneurs. You see a snapshot of a part of a site web, a website for a company that I want to understand the strategy. This company has been bankrupt some months ago, but still you can see from this picture lots of information, lots of tacit information. Of course, you see the motto, le meilleur restaurant livré chez vous, meaning that they claim to deliver at home food from the best restaurant in town. This is one information. We have to challenge it because this is not really true. This is a marketing speech. But from the picture itself, you can find and you can get others information. By example, you see a guy and a bike. So you can understand that this guy is delivering to your home the food by bike. It is dressed in green, light blue green. This has also a meaning, and you can also see that because he has a kind of uniform, this is he is a channel for addressing information and addressing the value proposition from the company to the customer. So from this picture, using the business model, we can put some information in the various boxes of the business model, making us to understand better the business model. And you see that I have put some more information on this business model because from my understanding or from the understanding of the business, we know that he is in the food tech business, though these people are ordering the meals from an application. So the application is a resource, and we can then understand that key activity is to develop the application. So we know what are the costs here, being the barkers. So you see that from one single images, you can begin to draw in a very short of time information, and you can begin to understand the business model. I will not go through the whole business model, but I will show you another piece of information that I've been able to collect on this specific company. And you see that at one time, they have been rejected by 114 venture capitalist funds. And this is a very, very interesting information in this example. Then if you analyze this content, you will accept, or you will have the idea that in a normal company, with a normal business model I began to draw, if you get 5 reviews from a venture capitalist, then you will be in a stage that you will have a pivot. You will change something in your way of doing. But hey, this is not the case. They continue to meet venture capitalists, meaning that actually the business model they were running was not the one we have been drawing for some time. So from this, we had to draw and to raise new questions, and we have a new picture of the business model. The business model being addressed to one kind of customer, being investors. The key activity is the search for new investors. The key resource is most probably the CEO of the company, and the proposition value is not no, but most probably be participation to one adventure. With one revenue being delayed, in the future, the investor will get some more money just by exiting the investment. And you see that from a very small amount of information and all what we know in terms of tacit information and tacit knowledge, it's really easy to understand the business model of a company. Could it be a competitor? And when you go to companies or small companies with this kind of exercises, this kind of tools, no technological tools, they are ready to hear you and to listen to you, and then to make a small sparse or a small mission with you, because they understand that they will get lots of information from you, not investing a lot of money in this exercise, just because we do it in half a day. So they have only to spend half a day for each business model we want to draw, or each canvas we want to draw, and they get so many information from that exercise that they are most of the time very, very happy of this exercise. The last thing is that you have to control the quality, and then the advice I've gave to my customer, you know, the factory or even whatever practitioner, is to try to make your rating of the quality of the work you have delivered, and to ask your customer to do the same work, the same job, rating your work. And then you compare both ratings. And if there is a difference, you just have to discuss with your customer, just understanding where are the differences. And from this discussion, you will be able to raise the quality of the work and of the content you deliver, the result you deliver to your customer. For sure, it will be much more happy in the future. And I will stop here my speech. I want you to remember that it's really important to focus on information and not document. It's really important and rich to exploit and to make use of tacit information and knowledge. And then it's really, really important to have very simple tools that let you to stage information and to have the information you have telling a story that will answer the questions you can raise. And I stop here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pierre-yves. So it's me and Rain McKeely, for those who have joined us a bit later, hosting this session. Please now feel free to send your comments, your posts via the chat function. We have some already, but there's obviously some more time for you now to pose additional questions. I will read out some of them, and then Pierre-yves, it's up to you to answer them. So number one, how do you measure return on intelligence, especially for these small, medium-sized enterprises?
Actually, I never face this kind of questions because we are only doing a mission if we know the result of it. So when we enter in contact with a company or when we begin a work, we have the questions: what decision do you want to make? What result do you want to get? And all these entrepreneurs are knowing that they are actually in a process of setting up a project. They know the results of the project they want to achieve. And competitive intelligence is implemented in the early stages of the project. And they understand that if they want to make of the project a success, they have to spend some money at the beginning. So they accept to put some money on the table just for having more certitude to reach their objective. And they know at the beginning what will be the use of this money and what will be the benefits of this money. So we never have a challenge about the ROI of our missions.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good answer, although it's a bit evasive. If I may add my contextual understanding of this question. When we talk about this usual CI operations, so not a startup with this kind of initial build-up or business development exercise, and you made this example of the 4 full-time CI guys at this very company you shown in the beginning. Mm-hmm. There must be always a situation of having more work than you can actually carry. So sooner or later, you have to prioritize. If you have to prioritize, it means you have to say no to some requests. And I think here the question about return on intelligence fits in, i.e., if there's not enough resources, and this seems to be very much what you told us, then sooner or later, a team has to find a way to survive without having this kind of luxury of generating more and more intelligence.
Okay,
so how does this work? And we have a similar question around this, how to prioritize work in a small, medium-sized enterprise. So maybe we can sort of try to answer this understanding of yours. How should a small team survive, given that there's so much work and not enough resources?
Okay, this point, I do not have the answer myself. This is a decision to be made by the team itself. But in the process and the protocol, I proposed them, and they were actually demanding. They have to ask their customer what decision they have to make, what priority and what importance it is for them. And from this information at the early stage of the demand, they have to decide if they do it or not. And they will most probably also put in the topic the level of seniority of the demander and stuff like that. But it should go through a demanding process introducing process, and they will make the decision. Actually, they already refuse some missions because they do not have time. It's not them themselves, but the director of the department who is refusing some missions.
And I think this was pretty much the context of the question. And here we have an add-on question, actually. By the way, thanking you for a great presentation. And then, given that a team cannot accept every single project, how do you go about telling an internal customer that you cannot do the project?
Actually, they are ready to, after having redrawn the business model, and this is a very, very important part, they have to make the new business model public to the whole company. And from this way of new way of working, people should understand that there are limited resources or limited topic on which they will be working, and they will also put on the table the new protocols they will be following. Actually, there is no rules for them. So anybody can actually send them an assignment or a demand. And since there are no rules, there are no way for them to refuse something. So by putting the rules and describing the rules on which they will be working, they will be in a stage of refusing new assignments.
Okay, so how can I tell? Your answer is pretty much it's a simply kind of understanding of how the CI department works, and that's when people simply have to understand not everything can be delivered.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like a supply-demand based function, and then sometimes you're bad luck. Sometimes there might be enough time to work on a project, which is, from my experience, a bit difficult to to tell those who will not be served that there was no time for them. But I think it's part of your experience with these small companies that there are special ways of working together and not a hierarchical system or very much rule-based system, as you indicated.
Yeah, indeed. But no, I'm most of the time working with very small companies, directly in touch with the boss, and I'm working and I'm reacting to their demand. Companies having 4 people working on competitive intelligence are really rare in Belgium.
Right.
So my experience in the exact way they are working, it's not that big. So I will not go on the field because I'm not experienced in that field.
Okay, next question for you. Any recommendations for a CI software tool? Of course, especially for these small companies, i.e. low budgets.
Actually, no, I never recommend any software. I actually never recommend to make some specific watching missions. The most of the information and the benefit we got from just activating tacit information. Actually, in small organizations, but it could be also the case in bigger organizations, we are working on project-based assignments, meaning that in a small companies, when they need to perform a competitive intelligence project, is because they have a problem to solve. And then we do it, and we propose some answers, some modification in whatever, and then they need to have time to implement. And while they're implementing the new solutions, they are not really making competitive intelligence activities. So we are working with these cyclic activities. And in this way of thinking, specific tools are not really useful.
Okay. Then we have a next question for you.
Yes.
Well, it's again software, but now it's not a software system, but I guess it's for personal efficiency. So if you have a one guy only situation in the company, any recommendation for increasing personal efficiency via software tools? So this is along the line, I guess, of your mind mapping idea and canvases. Is there anything you can recommend to those lonely CI stars?
The only software I would recommend is a mind mapping software, and the leader of the market being MindJet, Mind Manager from MindJet.
Yes.
If you, the guys or the CEO that could invest some time in using correctly, this tool will have a tremendous earning, and he will have a better way of working. Really, mind mapping is one of the most effective tools that you can use.
Okay, fair enough. Next question for you. Can you please expand on your half-day rule? Does that mean that you spend half a day on every project and then ask for feedback on what info has been gathered thus far?
Actually, I spoke about half a day, just a session, just to make a business model. We are in dynamic. We are selling very short assignments to our clients, 2 or 3 days, and in these assignments, there are for 3 days we will spend 4 half a day with the customer, just in front of them and reacting and trying to make some social intelligence. And the rest is dedicated to administrative tasks and possibly to reporting tasks. So we are cutting and slicing our activities in boxes of half a day.
Okay.
And half a day could be one business model, then helping them in searching for information or whatever, but we are slicing in half days.
Yes, and I think the point is that you have a lot of feedback then already, and this of course helps to deliver what's expected. You mentioned in your initial case some kind of mismatch between actual delivery and expectations. So this of course is a good point that you talk more often to your customers, and then of course you get a better grab on what they want.
Yes, and the feedback is direct because we have assigned an objective to the missions, and we do not provide any answer to the customer. He is making the answer. He is putting all the information on the table, and he is producing the answer himself. So if it could be that he doesn't like the way of doing and the way we are working, and then we will stop the mission. Simply, we will have a shake hand and we will keep in touch. But we are not bringing in a very important, very big assignments and in which he believes he could lose lots of money.
Okay, fair enough. Then we have 2-3 questions about your business canvas.
Yes.
Let me summarize that in one question. The point is, could you explain a bit more about this approach, this concept, I guess, about this business canvas or business model? And then the question adding on to that, how can you tell from describing a competitor, a company's activities to their strategy? So this was not clear, I guess, in your presentation. Could you elaborate a bit on this approach?
Okay.
Yeah, I think this was very much the slides you presented.
So the business model canvas is a canvas made of main boxes. The one on the right side is all what happens on the market, and on the left side, what happens internally. It's quite conceptual, and it describes what the company is selling to the customers. This is the proposition dollar value proposition. It's sent to the customer on the right of the pictures through some channels, and this is all the ways and the means used for bringing the value proposition to the clients. And then the box just beside is the relation that will be built between the company and the customer, and then you can describe the the quantity, the dynamic of the relation, and the quality of the relation. And on the lower box, then you have all the revenues. Could it be valued revenues in dollars or none in dollars, but in quality or experience? And on the left side, you have all the activities that you have to perform in order to send the value proposition to the customers, all the resources that you can make use of, being people, knowledge, money, immaterial capital, and so on. You have all the partnerships, just the one having some resources that you do not have internally, and then all the cost. When you, based on this topic, you tell the story, we could say in this case that I took the example of the 140 VCs, venture capitalists. So we can say that Adrien Rose, the CEO, he is a resource, key resource, has spent a lot of time in meeting VCs. This is a key activity in order to sell them, to show them a value proposition, being something that I didn't know what it is. The investors are the customers, and the channel that he is using is meetings and roadshows. And the relation he wants to build is convincing them, also acquiring new contacts with investors, and having also a relation in letting them expecting a big earning in a short amount of time. The revenue is a delayed revenue that they want to get because they're investing right now, but they will get the fruit of this investment in the future. And the cost of this is time, energy, and probably some traveling cost. He could also work with some partners, being bankers or people that could help them and help him to meet these investors. So you see that we can make all the story from a small amount of information. For sure, up to now, this is a guess. We are not sure that this is the real way and the real strategy he has implemented to reach his goal. But I'm fairly sure I'm not that far from the reality. And if I have some questions, and that's why you see some question marks on my business model, I know that I have to go to more information and to try to answer this very specific question in order to make more certainty in my speech and my story. So from the business model, we can determine the objectives of the company, being selling to one people or to some customers. And we can also understand the way they want to achieve this objective by putting some relationship in place between the customers and the company, but also by the use of some means, being the channels. Is that clear?
Yeah, I guess at least for me, so I'm not sure about the audience. But yes, you made the point, and I think the second question about this, how to get from a descriptive model, which is pretty much what you've shown us here, to the strategy is interpretation. You called it telling a story, which is pretty much your way of underlying assumption and to what end are they behaving, what you can observe, what you can see in the field, or what you can derive from your information bits and pieces, and then come up with a conclusion, oh, this must be their strategy, and right or wrong, you at least have a first draft on that, and then you can develop measures or so what kind of analysis.
Of course, just added information. Of course, for a very small company, we are close to one product, one customer segment. For bigger companies, of course, you have multiple products and multiple value proposition, making the picture of the whole strategy of the company more difficult to understand. So most of the time we are doing it at the product level and not necessarily at the company level. Still, it can help at the company level.
Yeah, and as you pointed out, it's a straightforward process. It's a one-chart thing, nothing fancy, no rocket science in between. And this is along the lines of your whole presentation. How can you convince small companies to go for such a service or enter into such a field of competitive intelligence? Yeah. Final question so far. So if anybody wants to pose a question, now it's really your final call for that. This question is about a rule of thumb. How many full-time equivalent employees in a CI function per million of revenue for small companies? I guess the point is, again, back to your experience when you mentioned initially that you had many, many contacts to smaller companies. Is there anything like an experience curve or rule of thumb? What kind of resources should a small company allocate to this function?
Actually, I have no answer to this because most of the companies I'm working with are producing less than €1 million revenue. So they are very, very small. So there is no way they could afford having specialized people on board.
So using part-time equivalents.
Yes, it's a very specific mission and assignment. So we are spending some days a year in these companies, and this is quite enough.
I think that's another answer to this question, that small companies seem to outsource a lot of their work on a project-by-project base, which of course means there's no commitment to resources, to employees.
Yeah, indeed.
Which might be one way around if you have no big budget, no real staff on that. But no, fair enough. This is definitely a different rule from what many of our audience experience in their day-to-day operations. But here you go. It's been a very interesting perspective, and thank you very much for your presentation.
You're welcome.
A lot of questions coming up, so this must have been really very interesting to our audience. I wonder if we can click on to the last slide, so then we can wrap up the session in a way. And of course, then it's a weekend coming up.
Yeah.
So the last slide, one more, please. Yeah. Oh, no, too much. Here we go. Thank you. So you're in control. Yeah, what I just wanted to mention again is that this webinar and many others can be checked out at our Insight site. So go to the Institute's website, which is www.competitive-intelligence.com. Yes, there are some upcoming ICI workshops and programs from London end of this month to Paris, mid of November, and then in February we're back to London. And finally, there's a conference coming up. It's our 10th International Competitive Market Intelligence Conference, which will be held in June in Germany. And we have our call for speakers out. So if you're interested and want to submit a proposal for a presentation, whether it's a practitioner's case study, whether it's a kind of food for thought, impulse speech, or whether it's more academic, scientific work, please feel free to hand something in. And we'd be glad to review that. And of course, yes, you'll make it to our wonderful conference next year. Yeah, so thank you, everybody, and thanks again to Pierre-yves for this wonderful presentation. Have a nice weekend, everybody, and hope to read from you soon. Bye.
Thank you. Have a nice weekend. Bye.